to a big Hong Kong racing preview show, looking ahead to what is going to be a super Sunday of racing coming up from Sha Tin. It's some of the best Hong Kong action you'll see, some of the best action you'll see anywhere in the world, coming on the back of what was a big Chinese New Year meeting at Sha Tin on Tuesday. They had the biggest crowd anywhere in the world since the Kentucky Derby last May, and record turnover as well. But all it did was whet the appetite for what will be a spectacular day of racing on Sunday. It's headlined by two features, the Hong Kong Classic Mile for the 4-year-olds, and also what is going to be the headline race anywhere in the world this weekend, the Stewards Cup, featuring three of the absolute big guns. We've got Golden 60, winner of this race a couple of years back. He was beaten last year, managed to win the Jockey Club Mile here, beating California Spangle, who was the victor in the Hong Kong Mile, managing to turn the tables on Golden 60. We get to see the rematch, but perhaps most excitingly of all, we get to see this incredible Hong Kong Cup winner in Romantic Warrior stepping out again and taking his place back to a mile. He did manage to beat California Spangle last year over the trip, and looking forward to seeing that all again. As I welcome in Maddy, Playle and Graham Cunningham. Maddy, I'll start with you. What are you most looking forward to come Sunday's meeting?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Andrew, the two big races have really got me excited. Mainly that Stewards Cup, three of the best horses in the world, and three very different horses in terms of how they like to be ridden and their qualities. So it's going to be a fascinating tactical affair. We'll get into more of that later, but it is going to be one of the best races we've seen globally for a long time.
And Graham Cunningham, as I welcome you in, I know you are an incredible betting man, an incredible statistics man. What are you expecting to see from the markets and from turnover come Sunday's meeting?
Yeah, hello, Andrew. Hello, Maddy. It's fascinating because I don't think too many people expected that on Chinese New Year. The biggest betting turnover since 1997. I'll repeat, since 1997. Crowd of over 80,000 across Sha Tin and Happy Valley. So if it ever went away, Hong Kong racing is right back in the spotlight, and three kings line up for the Stewards Cup, the three kings of Hong Kong racing, but only one can wear the crown after the Stewards Cup, which I think is 8:05 GMT. Don't miss it. It is a spectacular elite Group 1 contest.
The great thing about the Hong Kong pattern is it means that you get to see these horses tackling each other. There's not the opportunity to go to other races, and it has created this incredible spectacle, which we will get to in a moment. Before we get to looking ahead to some of these races, Graham, I just want to chat to you quickly about the tote and the system in Hong Kong. It is an all-tote system, and due to or thanks to commingling and World Pool, we get the opportunity to bet into these large pools in Hong Kong.
Yeah, and an announcement today, I think World Pool bigger, probably better than ever in 2023. I think it might be up to about 25 days through the calendar year. Big racing from South Africa, Irish Derby Day added, all those big European events, Royal Ascot, Goodwood, York, King George Day, etc., etc. So no, it's one of relatively few real growing growth projects in betting at the moment. So it's fascinating. I don't think they'll make too many mistakes, the Hong Kong punters, as regards the big races. But it's now time to find a few winners, Andrew.
It is. Let's hope that we can do that as we look ahead to four of these races on what will be Super Saturday at Sha Tin. The first we'll look at is on Sunday. I said Saturday, didn't I? It's Sunday. That's all right. You know what? I'm just getting so excited for the weekend ahead that I'm getting ahead of myself already, wanting to get to what is going to be a big Sunday at Sha Tin. We're going to start with race number 5. This is the Able Friend Handicap. Able Friend, one of the great milers in Hong Kong. His Stewards Cup win was sensational going back, 7 or 8 years ago now. And he is remembered with race number 5. Now, this is on the all-weather track, the dirt there in Hong Kong. And it is over the extended mile, the 1650 metres, which is quite a short run to that first turn. It's very much a specialist track. Maddy, as I come to you, where were you looking at going in this race, the Able Friend Handicap?
Yeah, good race to start off in. I can see the sort of horses towards the top of the weights dominating here. Obviously, Zach Burton's on the top weight, Hanson 12. He's sure to have a big chance. Last time out, just didn't get a very good trip at all. I think we can draw a line through that run. My selection, he's probably not going to have it easy from a wide draw in 10, but I'm going to go with True Legend, course and distance winner, partnered by Sylvester de Souza. He takes over from Angus Chung. And this is quite an interesting race because tactically these two main players, Handsome 12 and True Legend, are ridden differently. True Legend will probably go forward under de Souza, so that'll be a challenge from his draw in 10. And Handsome 12 will have to navigate traffic from the back under Purton. True Legend, I think we're going to see the benefit of the jockey change, and he's just a really solid horse. He's been progressing nicely. The win on his penultimate starts over a mile on the dirt, beating Yes We Can by 5 lengths, was really impressive. And he didn't lose a lot in defeat when just caught by Handsome 12 last time. De Souza, we know from in the UK, seeing his riding style, he's brilliant at dictating the pace of all these front runners, and I'm putting my trust in him that he can get the better of Zach Purton on this occasion.
Graham, I know you're a big statistics man, as I mentioned before. What are you thinking here in regards to the extended mile? Is there anything we need to look at with regards to this Class 3 contest in terms of things like the draw, things like jockeys or trainers with regards to the dirt?
Yeah, draw is important, Andrew. As you said, you're very quickly into a turn. I think stalls 1 to 5 win about 3/4 of the races over this trip on the all-weather. Handsome 12's drawn low. He'll be tucked away. Maddy's dead right. Sylvester will not mess around on True Legend. He's not just a front runner. He is a potential blazer. And they have form. I think we have 1 or 2 videos to look at, and 3 of them perhaps, and they all involve Handsome 12. Let's pick up the first one. This is the 4th of December. True Legend goes clear under £10 claimer Angus Chung. Slowly, surely, relentlessly, Purton and Handsome 12 gun him down. But this is a good snapshot of what these horses are all about. It takes him a little while to get to True Legend, who's just an exciting horse to watch, but he gets him, and he gets him quite tidily in the end. First 2 clear, solid all-weather form. Let's move on to Christmas Eve. And Yes We Can is a horse to keep an eye on here. He's in the blue colours and he comes from off the pace as usual. And he runs really well for 4th. But Handsome 12 and Zach Purton do it again. Stalking, coming home really strongly, defying a rise in the weights, and he does it in tidy fashion. So you get the picture. Purton is tailor-made for this horse, who is highly effective over this course and distance. Not surprisingly, he was heavily backed again on the 8th of January. Zach couldn't do the weight, £115. Alexi Bedell took over, and everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong. There he is with the big white face. The jockey on the outside is not letting him out. It wasn't the first bit of interference he encountered. So like Maddy said, I am highly prepared to give Handsome 12 a pass on that performance. Purton's back on board this weekend. They are 2 key horses. They're a must for Quinella trio slips. I'd just favour Handsome 12 because I think we can chuck out that last run, judge him on his wins, in which case he's probably quite a well-handicapped horse. I'm going to toss in a couple more names for people who are trying to snag the Quinella here. True Legend, Handsome 12, they speak for themselves. You'll be interested in a horse like Nordic Star, Andrew, by Drosselmeyer.
Absolutely.
Strong dirt influence. This time last year, he was running really well in the Dubai Carnival, 2nd in the UAE Guineas. So he's the type of horse who could shine on the dirt. Only had 1 turf run in Hong Kong, ran okay, but he could be a bit of a lurker on the dirt. Satirical Glory is trialled well on the dirt, ran really well on the turf. Yes We Can. If they go really hard, he'll plug on and might pick up a minor check. Beauty Champ, I'm not so keen on. Yes, he won course and distance last time, but it was a Class 4 race. This is much deeper. Key horses for me, Handsome 12, True Legend, and the sneaky one, the dirt pedigree, Nordic Star.
Nordic Star, definitely one that I was keeping an eye on. I'm also going to be interested to see what Find My Love does on the dirt. Ran 2nd in the Jersey last year when named Find. Dam was placed in a Queen's Plate at Woodbine. So there is a dirt pedigree there. Frankel, maybe not so much, but interested to see what these horses do first time on the dirt. You know, as well as anyone, Graham, how much those can really just turn on once they get across to the dirt. And I do think Nordic Star is the type who could very much do that. But it does look a race for Handsome 12 here. It is one of those competitive affairs, as always on the dirt. But that leads us into what is going to be an absolute beauty of a race. It's going to be a sensational sensational contest. Just the 7 runners for the Group 1 Stewards Cup coming up over the mile, but 6 Group 1 winners. The only one who's not is Beauty Joy, who is an enigma, but a very talented enigma on his day. We get those 3 big guns that we were talking about before: Golden 60, Romantic Warrior, California Spangle. And then you get to the rest. But when the rest are headlined by a 2-time winner of this race in Waikuku, Graham, it just shows you the depth that's there among the 7 runners.
It would be astonishing if anything other than the big 3 won this race. The good horses, several other Group 1 winners. Waikuku nicked this in a steadily run race under Purton last year, beating the mighty Golden 60. But the 3 main players here are all bang in form, all known for the consistency. So it would be a huge shock if we got anything other than an exciting finish between Golden 60, Romantic Warrior, and of course California Spangle. Tactics are bound to be key, Maddy, and no prizes for guessing who's going to call the tune.
Yeah, I'll just lift off on the back of that. I think one of the key points in this race is tactics. And for me, the man in the box seat is Zach Purton aboard California Spangle. We know this horse likes to go forward, and he can make others dance to his tune, as he did when beating Golden 60 in the Hong Kong Mile. Questions surrounding whether Golden 60 is quite as dominant as he once was. He was pretty close in that Hong Kong Mile, but just couldn't get the pace in the closing stages to defeat California Spangle. But it just depends on how this race is going to be run. Romantic Warrior, we shouldn't forget this is a horse who has already beaten California Spangle over the mile in that Hong Kong Classic Mile last season. But for me, Zach Purton is going to dominate this race. He's going to be the key player in terms of how it's run. He's going to dictate his own fractions up front, but he's not my selection.
Oh, there we go. Shock horror. This is going to be very interesting. Well, we can talk about a price guide that the Hong Kong Jockey Club odd setters have sent through. Now, obviously, we're talking tote markets. It's all tote markets. No ability to set your price here. But if they were setting their price, they'd have 250 California Spangle. What's that? 6-4, 7-4 about Romantic Warrior, and 9-4 about Golden 60. I must admit, I didn't see it playing out that way. I thought that probably Romantic Warrior would be favourite. I thought Golden 60 would probably be second favourite and California Spangle third favourite, personally. But Graham, yep, I'm curious. How did you see them?
Yeah, I think it'll be 2.5 Romantic Warrior, around about 2.9 Golden 60, and maybe about 3.3 the Spangle. The Spangle will get the clear run. He always does. He's just a beautiful, smooth front runner. Hardly ever seen a miler with gate speed like him, Andrew. He is out of the traps like a greyhound and into his rhythm very quickly. And I think Purton knows this is the dilemma that Purton has. It's a fine line he has to tread. Go slow, really slow, and he runs the risk of getting pounced on by Golden 60 in the way Golden 60 did when he ran 21.3 for the final 400 in the Jockey Cup Mile. Go hard, and he brings stamina into play, and he runs the risk of Romantic Warrior just running over the top of everything. So I think if you're looking at the race itself, I think he's likely to do something similar to the Hong Kong Mile, a tepid first 400, around about 25 seconds, stronger through the middle, and then may the best man and the best horse win. I've done a bit of a reverse ferret on this. I was thinking California Spangle might be the value, but the more I looked at the Hong Kong Cup, Andrew, the more I was impressed with Romantic Warrior. But we do have a few videos to look at, and they are the key galloping clues. I think this is the Jockey Club Mile, which is California Spangle on the front end. It's Vincent Ho on the right, Maddy, and this is Golden 60 at his brilliant best. It's only back in November, and that turn of foot, when it's at its best, is devastating.
It is, and I still think some were a bit harsh for criticising Golden 60 on what he did back in December. And if he produces his best, we know that he has what it takes to down these 2 heavyweights. But I would say he's the one who's going to make life hardest for his jockey in this in terms of positioning. My selection would be Romantic Warrior, and I'm very encouraged by those price guides because, like you two, I expected him to be a clear favourite. I can understand why people might take a critical or more critical view of the Cup form than perhaps the mile form. But I still don't think this horse has got the credit he deserved. He's very straightforward. We know, admittedly he's been running over 10 furlongs and flourishing over that distance, but we know that he's really classy over a mile as well. As I said, he has that previous 4-year-old series race in the bag over California Spangle. And I think tactically Karis can just afford to sit behind Zach and choose his moment when to pounce. And I think this is a world-class horse who's once again going to prove his dominance over a really classy group of Hong Kong horses.
Can I just touch on that Hong Kong mile again? We just saw the finish where California Spangle rated beautifully, just had enough in the tank to hold off Golden 60. I want to ask you both about this. Would it surprise you if I told you that of 13 runs over a mile, 13, that was Golden 60's slowest ever closing 400?
That wouldn't surprise, and that's actually the reason that I feel like you have to mark him down for that effort. Not that I think he has run that far below his best, but it was clearly not at his best. We know that he is.
22.19.
That's the thing.
60 can beat that in his sleep.
He can, exactly.
He wasn't quite at his best. Now maybe it'll be a different rhythm this weekend, and maybe he'll show that brilliant turn of foot. If he does, my hat's off to him. But for the moment, like Maddy, I think the Romantic Warrior might be the one. He's got something to prove, no question, because he hasn't got Group 1 form over a mile. But when you look at this was the Hong Kong Cup, the signature race of IR Day. There were a handful of, proper Group 1 horses in from Japan. And this horse, Maddy, he just puts his head down. And when he goes really hard. With James McDonald on here, he trounces the Hong Kong Cup field in a way that is rarely, if ever, seen. I think it was the widest winning distance in the history of the race, Maddy.
Yeah, I'm just so excited about this horse. I mean, we were all there. I had goosebumps watching him. And he just makes everything look straightforward. As you said, Graham, he doesn't really seem to have a flaw in how he races. His form has been immaculate. And the scary thing is, he could still be improving. If Zach doesn't go too slowly, obviously that's going to play into Karis's hands. But equally, this is a horse who has a turn of foot. He's by a sprinter in acclamation. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing what he can do. And there's actually a horse later on in the card who reminds me a little bit about Romantic Warrior. So I'm excited to talk about him as well.
The one thing I am going to put to both of you that I think is the underrated or the aspect of California Spangle's win last time out that perhaps has been forgotten a little bit is Beauty Joy there, taking off the way that he sort of set the race up a little bit. Obviously stablemates there. Graham, I'll come to you. Do you think that there's a potential that, I don't want to say team riding, but there's that opportunity there to try and create the race to make it as difficult as possible for a Romantic Warrior and also for a Golden 60?
I understand why you asked that, and I always try to put myself in the mind of the owners, the Kwok family, in the case of Beauty Joy. And if I was them and Beauty Joy was used as a bit of a rabbit, I'd be furious. I think Hugh Bowman
absolutely
took the initiative last time because the pace was very slow and Beauty Joy was a very fiery horse, started to pull. So he went on. Zach Pertner was definitely not expecting that. I don't think he was too pleased. But California Spangle is a super, super relaxed horse. For one who's got that high cruising speed, he can do it on demand and he can check in behind. But no, I think California Spangle is the likely leader here. I think if there's a tactical nuance here, I think it might be Karis getting busy a little earlier than normal to try to bring Romantic Warrior's strength into play. Karis Teeton, regular rider of Romantic Warrior, back on board instead of James McDonald this time. A huge day for Karis Teeton, huge day for Danny Shum, huge day for Romantic Warrior. But I think we're in agreement here. I think the Warrior can shine and beat two terrific rivals. We're always in danger of going too early in these big days and billing this as the best race in Hong Kong history. It won't look that way if Wakuku comes and wins it again. But I think we're right to be excited. It's hard to see the big three disappointing in too many ways. It's easy to see Romantic Warrior coming home strongest of all.
I think that's a perfect summary, Graham. Hoping that it is going to be that brilliant race that it promises to be. It hasn't been run yet. We'll wait and see how it plays out, but it does promise to be quite the spectacle there on Sunday. We move on to another quite spectacular race, the Hong Kong Classic Mile. Now, this is the first leg of the 4-year-old Classic Series in Hong Kong, as is the case in much of Asia. The Classic races are for 4-year-olds, not 3-year-olds, generally because it allows owners to be able to source horses that come out of derbies and races like that, run around the world, and they can take them to Hong Kong and race them at 4. So hence the Hong Kong Classic Mile, which is over a mile. Then you step up to 9 furlongs for the Hong Kong Classic Cup, and then the Derby, which is the race that every owner wants to win there in Hong Kong. That's over the 10 furlongs, the mile and 2, and that comes up in March. But this is the first stepping stone, and this is a race that has produced some incredible winners in the past. It's often the race that does produce the future milers. We've already talked about a couple of previous winners in the likes of Romantic Warrior and Golden 60, but you go back to horses like Rapid Dragon, Able Friend, Gold Fun. We also see sprinters sometimes stepping up, like Lucky 9, who was able to win at a mile but was better at a sprinting trip. And we see a horse like Cordyceps 6 stepping up in a trip as well. But it is a competitive race. We get to see some really nice horses heading through, like Packing Treadmill, horses that clearly have a lot of potential, like Flagship Warrior, who was a promising horse in South Australia by the name of Harley Movin. Really looking forward to this race. Maddy, I'll start with you. Where do you just start by unpacking this race?
Yeah, there's a lot to it. I guess the starting point is Cordyceps 6, who you've mentioned, who tops this field on ratings and has been running in Grade 1s. We saw him in the Hong Kong Sprint back in December, finishing 7th behind Wellington. I'm not sure that race would have panned out ideally for him. And as a hold-up horse, he's looked a strong stayer over sprinting trips. So maybe he's going to be even better over this mile trip. I'm excited to see how he can get on. Now he's stretched out over further. You've mentioned Packing Treadmill. He's going to be the big fancy for many. Francis Loy and Zach Purton teaming up. This horse has looked really progressive, winning his last 3 starts in smart style and a strong stayer with a decent turn of foot. Then you've got Ryan Moore coming over. This is another element of this race. You've got variety within the jockeys. Ryan Moore's coming over to ride Sweet Encounter, who was such an impressive winner on the Hong Kong International Races card back in December, was beaten since, but he's a strong traveller, so should be the sort of horse that Ryan's really going to relish riding towards the back of the field. Flagship Warrior, who you've mentioned, has a fascinating profile for Karis Teaton. It's a big day for him. He's going to have work to do, though, to improve on just that one start so far, and presumably out in 14 is going to also come from the back of the field. Improvers, again, like Tunchel, Galaxy Witness, Beautyverse, all the form intertwines. I'm sure Graham will reference some of the VTs that we'll see coming up. In terms of my selection, I said earlier a horse that reminds me of last year's winner, Romantic Warrior, and that's Keefe for, again, Sylvester de Souza. This is a horse who some people might be turned off because they can see that he's been beaten last time in that close finish. Behind Packing Treadmill at Sha Tin. But there was no disgrace in that because he was giving a stone to the winner. And we'll see his Chevalier Cup win in November was super impressive. He travels nicely. He can be positioned just behind the leaders, and he's very strong at the finish of his races. He just looks to have a really tremendous attitude. So I think if this race comes down to a close finish, Keefe will be there with his head down, driving under de Souza. Draw is fine in 7. He's got Packing Treadmill to the outside. And I think it's going to pay to be fairly close to the pace in this race. Some of the back runners could have plenty to do. But it's a deep race. It's a competitive race. And I really can't wait to see what happens.
Graham, I mean, it is one of these races that can often produce an upset in the sense that probably not so much as the Hong Kong Classic Cup, which is a race that has been known for 50-1 plus winners in its short history. But it is a race that it brings these horses together at set weights, which is very unusual for Hong Kong, and it really does set the hierarchy of the 4-year-olds heading towards the Derby.
I really like the race. I take a different view on it than some people. I've heard it described as a vintage classic mile. They must have been watching different trials than I've seen, Andrew. I haven't seen a star among this lot yet. I haven't seen a Rapid Dragon or a Golden 60 or a Romantic Warrior. Little clues that might help us, guys. Zach Purton's seeking the full set. This is the only big race in Hong Kong, I think. He's never won. You're going to have to wait another year, Zachary. I don't fancy packing treadmill. Ratings are normally a very good guide. Only one horse from the last 10 winners has not had a rating of 90 plus. That was a horse called Romantic Warrior. I wonder what happened to him. But all the others were rated 90 or higher. We only have 3 horses in this lineup rated 90 or higher. They are, from left to right, Cordyceps 6 wouldn't stay in a horse box, in my opinion. He is not a miler, in my view. He's an edgy hold-up sprinter. I just don't see it. He's rated 111. I don't see it. If he wins, I lose. Packing Treadmill, 93. Zach Purton, lots of ones against his name. His last run, I think Dylan Moe rode him because Hugh Bowman got a knock. He got the smoothest of smooth trips from stall 1 in a dawdle, a crawl with a capital C. They went so slow that he was in the perfect position, hardly had to go around a horse from the inside gate, and he won. But keep in mind, he was getting a stone from Keefe, a stone, who was too keen, really. I think he ran well despite the setup rather than because of it. If you go back to his previous win that Maddy referenced, from a mark of 91, he absolutely crushed 2 horses, Beluga and All for St. Paul's, who were known quantities, the smart horses, and he absolutely dominated them. So I think Keefe is a major, major player here. And Beautyverse was also in that race. I don't know whether we have the video or a couple of videos to look at here, but if you look back on that Packing Treadmill win, I think this is the race in question. Let me have a look. Yes, I think it is. And Packing Treadmill is just behind the horse in white. That's Keefe. Keefe was a bit keen. Dylan Moe eases Packing Treadmill out, and he quickens nicely. If you look in the Beauty Generation, the quad colours, the black jacket, and in behind, Beautyverse had no chance in this race. He was positioned terribly, but he came on quite nicely late in the piece. Packing Treadmill quickens well. Keefe can't do any more late on, but he was giving a stone to the winner. I really fancy Keefe to turn the form around with Packing Treadmill. I wouldn't be surprised if Beautyverse goes forward here, Andrew and Maddy. He did that first time out, and he looked a good horse. You know, Andrew, from the Aussie form, that he is a strong, strong stayer. So going forward this time makes sense for him. So from that galloping clue, the market will favour Packing Treadmill. I think Keefe can beat him, and I wouldn't be surprised if Beautyverse beat him as well.
I must say, it has been interesting watching Beautyverse in Hong Kong. He was known as Jungle Magnate down in Australia, won the South Australian Derby. But he was a horse that I remember in the Victorian Derby going back now 18 months, they pushed forward on him. Probably wasn't the ideal way to ride him there. But I remember as well in some of his other races, they settled him handy. And the way that he was able to quicken for a horse that clearly was going to get over ground, it was nice to see. He's, for me, probably at the head of the Hong Kong Derby ratings as far as I see it at the moment. And I'm really excited to see what Beautyverse can do. But as you say, Graham, that's a very interesting statistic about how important it is to have that rating up already. Because obviously horses...
If you're a major improver, yes, like Romantic Warrior was, clearly. Just to run through the other ratings, Beautyverse is 88. He's only just off the 90 scale. Sweet Encounter is 86. He has Ryan Moore on board. That's notable. I thought he'd win last time, and he didn't, which was a bit surprising. Flagship Warrior is 84. Galaxy Witness is 84. Tuchel is 83. They came from a really strong form race last time. So I'm going to go with Keefe, like Maddy. I like the look of Keefe here, and I think he might be the one to beat.
What about horses that we think can outrun their odds? It sounds like we're not anticipating a big shock here, but there are some progressive horses in behind. The one I'd nominate, not sure necessarily he's going to get the ideal trip, given that he's a strong stayer and he might be settled further towards the rear. But Graham mentioned Tuchel there, and I quite like Galaxy Witness as a horse at big odds, who I think could run a really big race. He's a strong stayer. He's going to come from the back, and if he gets a decent run through, I think he's progressive, and I think the way races have been run haven't necessarily suited him. We're going to see a better horse in future. I think Galaxy Witness wouldn't be surprised if he was one of a number of these that Sunday is not necessarily the big day for, perhaps one of the races later on in the series. But I'd put him forward as a candidate at a bigger price to recommend for each way and place punters.
I agree. I think he did really well from a very wide draw and a negative ride last time. I shouldn't let this worry me, but Hugh Bowman rode him last time, and Hugh's jumped off to ride Casper Founds' other horse, Viva Chalair. But that aside, I quite like the look of that Tuchel and Galaxy Witness form. They were first and second in a good handicap over 1,400, both drawn wide. This time, they're up in class, but the form of the last race has worked out really well with the third and the fourth winning already. So I'm going to go with Keefe here, but I'm going to try and snag the Quinella. I'm going to take Keefe as the banker, but I'm going to go with a few other horses besides, 2 with 4, 5, 7, and 10. I'm getting greedy here, the Hawk.
That's a very interesting strategy to take. I think it's the right way to go. I think it's the right way to try and attack the race. It is a Quinella race. I'm going to be interested to see what a horse like Bonza Perla is going to be able to do. The filly here.
The only filly in the race, and you'll know her form as well, won't you, Andrew, from her days back in Australia. Made a really nice debut, I thought, and so did many others in Hong Kong, and wasn't too badly disgraced last time. I'll let you take it away from here.
I mean, the only thing I would say is that she's coming out of Class 3 restricted company, stepping up. It is going to be a tougher ask here. It's a difficult environment for fillies to be able to acclimatise. But we did see, obviously, David Hayes win a derby with elegant fashion going back 20 years. So, it'll be interesting to see how she goes. She'll be back in the field. She'll be running on. She'll be hoping that there's a bit of pressure on. The one thing that's always been really interesting about the Hong Kong Classic Mile versus the Hong Kong Classic Cup is that there tends to be more pressure in a Hong Kong Classic Mile. I don't know whether it's because you get horses that are coming out of sprinting races stepping up, whereas the Hong Kong Classic Cup tends to be a very muddling run affair. Again, it's a generalization, but that's just the way they tend to differ in terms of the way they're run. And I think that can be potentially why you see different results in these races. But it's going to be a fascinating affair. Keefe does look hard to beat. And I think personally, Beautyverse, I think James McDonald can ride Beautyverse a treat. So just checking in, Maddy, you're with Keefe. And Graham, are you with Keefe as well?
Yeah, I don't think he'll be favourite, but I think he's got a great chance. There's great jockey angles here. As you touched on, Jamie Carr is in town to ride Voyage Bubble, one of the front runners. Ryan Moore is in town to ride Sweet Encounter. McDonald is in town to ride Beautyverse. But I really like I think from afar, I sense a little bit of an edge developing between Z Purton and S D'Souza. Yes. D'Souza is not messing about in more ways than one. He's picking up millions of dollars. He's picking up loads of wins. He's picking up loads of bans, his 5th careless riding ban of the season at Happy Valley on Wednesday. So I think it's going to be fascinating from a jockey point of view. But I'm going to take Keefe on top. I think Sweet Encounter has to be in there. I think Tuchel and Galaxy Witness both have chances. But no, Keefe on top. He's got the rating. He's got the profile. He's got the man on top who's hungry. So Keefe in the Classic Mile for me.
That's the Classic Mile for 2022. Yep, go.
No, I was just going to say, I clarify, I agree with Graham. It's Keefe number 1 for me. I think Galaxy Witness has got a really big chance for placement.
Looking forward to the Classic Mile for 2023. I think I said 2022 when we were talking at the same time. So time is getting away from us at a rate of knots, but looking forward to what it will be, a spectacular race. Yes, it is indeed. And we move on to what will be the final race on Sunday. I remembered it was Sunday this time. It is the Ambitious Dragon Handicap. Again, another of these Classic Mile winners. Ambitious Dragon, a great horse for Tony Millard. A brilliant horse at both a mile and also 2,000 metres just over a decade ago. Now, this event is a Class 3. It comes up over the 1,400 metres. And we see a couple of horses here debuting that are going to be of real interest to people from abroad. Beauty Inspire, who we saw winning the Anglesey Stakes at the Curragh back in July. Perfect Team, who was a horse by the name of Elzami for Sheikh Khalifa down in Australia. Also Beauty Missile, who was second in a listed race at its only start in Australia. But they're taking on horses that have had a bit of a grounding in Hong Kong, the likes of Amazing Victory, who is just so consistent. Horses like Stunning Impact, who's been going well. Tamara Blitz coming off a win last time out. I love these Class 3 1400 metre races, betting contests, Graham. They're just races that are really, they allow you to sink your teeth into them.
Yeah, it's an unusual race. And I think, as you suggested, the starting point is the newcomers. There are 2 or 3 interesting ones here. Negative for me, Beauty Inspire. You said he won the Anglesey Stakes in July, 2 from 2 for Jar Lions, but it was July 2021. He went bad at the stalls. He got some serious stalls issues. I've watched his trials in Hong Kong. He's going in the stalls fine, but he's not going with the sort of zip that makes you think he can defy a mark of 74 first time out. Perfect Team. He showed a good amount of ability in his trial behind Lucky Swain S. He looks a horse with plenty of ability, but it's not easy to make a winning debut in Hong Kong in Class 3 off a mark of 76. And the other, Beauty Missile, second in a listed race. He lacks racing experience, but he's obviously got potential. But I don't know about you, Maddy. I'm going to concentrate on the proven Hong Kong horses who've shown some recent form, and I think that brings in Amazing Victory for sure. And further down the weights, a former Rafe Beckett horse called Tamra Blitz, who's on the right track now.
Yeah, Graham, I'm not sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing that you and I keep agreeing today, but I'm certainly with you with Amazing Victory. I think he's the one to focus on. It's such a big ask for these horses first time out to put it to horses who have experience and who are fully acclimatized. And Beauty Inspire, I mean, if a 561-day layoff isn't enough to put you off necessarily, he was quite green, quite quirky looking despite his 2 wins at the Curragh. So he's not the sort of horse who I'd look at being bomb-proof and being able to acclimatise too well. And I think this is a decent race. I think they've got a decent band of form that they've got to rise to. You mentioned Tamra Blitz. He's certainly interesting. I think Stunning Impact, if he gets a decent pace, he's certainly going to be involved as well. Wasn't seen at his best behind Simba last time when beaten 3.5 lengths, but was nearest at the finish. And I'd expect him to be involved. But the obvious one is Amazing Victory for that man, Zach Purton again. He's just a straightforward horse, and you can trust that he's going to perform. Whereas some of these, they are exciting horses, and I'm sure they will develop into good contenders. But today is not going to be the day for them.
Yeah, can I pick up on Amazing Victory? He's a hard horse to knock. He's won 3 from 5 this season, goes really well for Purton, stayed on strongly, clear second last time. He has gone up 3 pounds, Andrew, for being beaten. And it's always a bit of a bugbear with that. If you couldn't win on that day and you go up 3, you might just be vulnerable. But that aside, he's running really well. This was a truly run race, and he comes from nicely off the pace. Sinbad didn't really frank the form the other day, but he's a horse of considerable potential. And as you can see, Amazing Victory and Purton stay on strongly to finish clear of the race, the rest, including Stunning Impact. See him in the red, the Mr. Stunning colours coming on the outside. He didn't get a good break or a good run, so he can do better. That's a key piece of form. But I think and hope we have the Tamra Blitz video. Worth recalling that this was on the same race card as Amazing Victory's race. It was a slightly slower time, but this is a pretty good form race. If you keep your eye on the inside, you'll see that gradually, I think it's Bowman, it is Hugh Bowman, on Tamra Blitz, weaves his way through, gets a good run, and this lightly raced horse in Hong Kong settled things quite nicely. He's level with about 60 metres to go, 100 metres to go. At the line, he's nicely clear and firmly on top. And if you have a look at the form of that race, I think the third horse has won and the fourth has run really well. So he's up in the weights and he's up in class, I think, but he's going quite nicely, this horse now. So he's definitely one for the shortlist. I have a wild one here. If there's one absolute rag who might run well on this card and in this race, and it's a tough one to make a case for, it's number 9, Casa Papa, for Benno Young and Jerry Chow. He ought to be 20-1 plus, really. And he's absolutely not a consistent horse. He's not been firing much of a shot recently, but if you go back to his first start this season, when he ran really well against Mr. Ascendancy, who won a big race the other day, Mr. Ascendancy has gone forward. Casapapa has gone backwards in terms of his form figures, but there is ability there, and if he can find that reappearance form, he might add a bit of value at a big price. He did trial recently, and he seemed to trial okay, so keep an eye at a wild price on number 9, Casapapa. But the key form horses are 1, Amazing Victory, and 11, Tamra Blitz. I will disagree with you for once, Miss Playle. I'll take Tamra Blitz over Amazing Victory. What about you?
Yeah, I will stick with Amazing Victory, and I'll also go with Stunning Impact to play.
I tell you what, I have been waiting for Parterre to get down to a rating of 66 for a long time. And then he finally gets there. And unfortunately, you've got a stable that is in probably the worst form of any stable that you'll ever find. I mean, Graham, you've been out there. You know how difficult it can be. Tony hasn't had a winner. Tony Millard hasn't had a winner since November. He's only had 2 this season. Just how difficult can it be for stables to really get out of that rut when they're in it, especially in Hong Kong where you're only racing a couple of times a week? It's
perplexing to see. You know Tony Millard well, so do I. He is a first-class trainer and has been for many years.
Brilliant.
And he's a grumpy old sod as well. And when he was going really
I'm glad you said that and not me.
It was really, quite edgy with me. We had 1 or 2 little run-ins. And when I saw him in December not going well, he was charm itself. So maybe he needs to go back to being grumpy, Tony. But I think it has to be player recruitment. It has to be, because the trainer's abilities don't change, Andrew. But the playing staff does change over time. And the recruitment doesn't seem to have worked in the last, quite a while now. So good luck with Parterre. They're not firing at the moment, the Millard stable, but you will get a big price by way of compensation.
So those are the 4 races that we've had a look at what will be Super Sunday at Sha Tin. Graham, as I come to you, just summarise your selections there, and what would be your best on the card for those getting up to play for Sha Tin?
Yeah, no problem, Andrew. It's a big Sunday at Sha Tin. Let's go through the races that take place at, how shall we say, a civilised hour for us Europeans. Race 5, 7 a.m. GMT on the all-weather. Handsome 12 is on top for me. Terrific record, no luck last time. Purton's back on board. True legend, Nordic Star, others to keep an eye on. I'm going to throw in race 6, a 1,000-metre race down the straight at Sha Tin. A fast horse with good form and a high draw is always worth a second look in races like this. If his name translates as Brave Horse, so much the better. Cheval Valiant is the horse in question. He comes here on the back of a career best performance last time. Lyle Hewitson is doing really well. He's got stall 12. He'll bag the rail, and I think he'll be hard to catch. Main dangers, Purton rides Inno Construction, ran well at triple figures. Not as good a race as this, though. Purton's on board. He'll corner support. So will Jeannot Flash. Ryan Moore is on board, and he was unlucky last time. But I think they'll have to go to get past Cheval Valiant, who I think is one of the bets on the card. Race 7, it's straightforward. It's just a brilliant race. No secrets, just 3 terrific horses. I think Romantic Warrior might have too much strength at the end of the race for Golden 60 and California Spangle, but may the best horse win. Race 9, I like the shape of the Classic Mile. I'm happy to toss the likely favourite Packing Treadmill. I'm not sure he's as good as his last win suggests. I am pretty sure that Keefe is better than his defeat behind Packing Treadmill suggests. He's a stone better off. He'll get a better gallop to run at. Keefe in the Quinella on top. 2 as the banker with 4, 5, 7 and 10. On to race 10. Amazing Victory and Tamra Blitz are the key recent form horses. Not much between the 2, but I think Tamra Blitz might be the value option. Best bet on the card, race 6, 7:35, Cheval Valiant, Stewards Cup, Romantic Warrior, Classic Mile, Keefe, bingo. What about you, Maddy Playle?
Nicely done. Yeah, I'm going to take you on in race 5. You've gone for Leading Fortune. I'm going to go for True Legend. We'll see who comes out on top. in that battle between Sylvester de Souza and Zach Purton that you mentioned later on. Race 7, the Stewards Cup Rin Agreement once again. Romantic Warrior, so good in the Hong Kong Cup last time. I'm hoping he can dominate back to a mile. It's going to be a fascinating contest. And so too is the Hong Kong Classic Mile Race 9. Plenty of potential in there. And as I mentioned earlier, some horses who I think are going to run better at big odds. But the one to side with is Keefe. He's solid. And like you, I agree that he can take packing treadmill for Zach Purton. And then race 10, you like
Blitz.
Thank you. Race 10, I'll go for Amazing Victory to beat Stunning Impact. But the best bet of the day will come in the Hong Kong Classic Mile. I'm going with Keefe.
Keefe for both Graham Cunningham and Maddy Playle in the Hong Kong Classic Mile. Definitely a race worth watching. We might be seeing the horses that will, in the future, be taking on the likes of Golden 60, California Spangle, and Romantic Warrior in the Stewards Cup of 2024 and beyond. Thank you very much, Maddy Playle. Thank you, Graham Cunningham. It's been a pleasure to chat to you as always. Amazing the magic of technology, and looking forward to chatting to you again in the lead up to some of these big Hong Kong races. Hopefully seeing you as well very soon.
Thanks, everyone. Good luck.
Thanks, Andrew. Best of luck with your betting on Sunday. Look forward to it. Can't wait.
And thank you for joining us on this Hong Kong racing preview show. I hope that you enjoy all the action from Sha Tin. It comes up early Sunday morning. And remember, if you are having a bet, remember to gamble responsibly.
Racing Post Members Club is the ultimate racing subscription, and new customers can give it a try with 50% off your first 3 months. A subscription includes unlimited access to the Racing Post digital newspaper, available from 9 PM the evening before it's out in shops. Plus there are daily write-ups from our tipsters, replays from all UK and Irish racecourses, and plenty more exclusive online content. Click the link in the audio description to learn more and get 50% off your first 3 months.